Manchester City. Arsenal fans, do you want to see the table? They are in gold. They have the letter C next to their name, and that 1-0 victory for Arsenal against Burnley, coupled with Manchester City dropping points here at the Vitality against Bournemouth, means that Arsenal, with a 4-point gap over their nearest rivals, are Premier League champions after 22 years. This is their 4th Premier League title, and Mikel Arteta has been building something. We've heard this throughout his time at Arsenal. There haven't been the trophy since that opening part season to back that up. But this season, not only are they Premier League champions, they have a Champions League final still to come. There is another game taking place this evening. It's a big game at the bottom of the table, but it's also relevant in terms of European qualification because Chelsea are leading Spurs by 1-0. It means that Chelsea are in 8th place as things stand, and it means that Tottenham have just got that narrow advantage over West Ham, and there will be all to play for on the final day of the season. Tonight, though, yes, Bournemouth have qualified for Europe, and yes, Manchester City have ended Pep Guardiola's time, we believe, with that draw to make sure they are not Premier League champions. But Arsenal are, and this is how they announced it on social media.
On the stadium to celebrate 9 months of stress. This is a release of almost 22 years in the wilderness without a Premier League trophy. There's flares. Everybody is having the time of their life. They've been waiting so long for this. Somebody's brought along a mini Premier League trophy. Everyone's in great mood. There's scarves, there's flags, there's flares. What more do you want? 22 years since the last time Arsenal were champions of England. This is the sort of party you're getting in North London tonight.
How are you?
I'm okay. I'm good. I'm a bit emotional, I have to say.
No, I don't blame you. I mean, congratulations, given your Gooner connections, and it's been a long, long wait, hasn't it?
Yeah, and I'm really pleased for him. You know, we talked about the 3 years and the bottling it and all the press getting involved with putting the pressure on him, and that's what we do in the media. We pile pressure on people. Can you survive that? And to be fair to the club, they stuck by Arteta. To be fair to Arteta, he stuck by the process. He kept talking about it. He was getting some stick from the press, and he's kept going. And I think this season, the squad has been so strong. They've had their dips. They're not playing the most fantastic football they did at the start of the season. They dropped off. But it's about this league's really hard to win. Let's not forget that. And I think some people go, oh, they finished second. Finishing second in this league is very, very good. To win it, you've got to be special. And I think what he's created at the club with the spirit, I think, from what it was before he came, I think he's done a brilliant job, and he takes a lot of credit. They've built a squad now. I think also because they've gone, we say, because you've won your first one, I think the handbrake will be off next season. He'll get money to spend, and then he's got this freedom now of having won the big one.
Yeah. Graham, your appreciation of the team we can now call champions.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. And we were both standing here and say, you win the league, you totally deserve to do it. No matter how you do it, against the competition, and we see again tonight the quality of the league is fantastic. So all credit to that Arsenal team. And going 3 years in a row coming second, the pain and the pressure that you put on yourself, that was 4 years worth of work that they've achieved in winning their first title, this group. And I think it could be a changing of the guard in terms of Jurgen Klopp has gone. Pep Guardiola is possibly going. I think there's an opportunity, and I don't want to get too ahead of myself here, but there's an opportunity for Arsenal with how they've spent their money, how they've built this incredible momentum over time to really enjoy next season, but deliver again. There's a real opportunity for them to, I think, dominate football for a period of time.
There's another D word we could use, which is dynasty, of course. Yeah. Is this potentially the start of an Arsenal dynasty?
4 years ago, there was a disconnect from the fans to the players. They didn't like each other. They didn't like the team. The team were getting stick. And he's come and he's united that, and you see the atmosphere we had the other day at the game, yesterday at the game. It's infectious. Everyone's behind the team now, and I think it could be a possibility that they go on a run now and challenge and win more and more trophies. They could win the Champions League and win the best season they've ever had. So we're only one game away from that.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
And well done for
It's all my doing.
Yeah, well done for holding it together. And as you know, Rebecca, There's one thing we do well in this country, which is state occasions. So everyone's invited to Sunday's coronation at the Palace.
Yeah, lovely. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Win the Premier League. And Alan Smith, who won it twice for Arsenal, is with us here in the studio. Golden Boot winner, both of those seasons. What does it mean to watch Arsenal do this after 22 years?
Yeah, it's been a long time, hasn't it? In a way, it doesn't feel like it because the Arsene Wenger years still feel fairly close when they won it. But brilliant, fully deserved of it. Obviously, they've had the moments in the last few seasons where they've come second. But they've been, you know, you deserve to win it if you finish top. Yeah. They've had the best defence, they haven't had the best attack. You'd probably say City have got the best attack, but as an overall unit, you know, Mikel Arteta's done brilliantly well. And yeah, really pleased for my old club.
Not quite the excitement of '89, but the players, the manager, they won't care less, how will they?
No, I mean, in '91, we won it with one game to go, and then we played Man United and then Coventry, actually. We had 2 games to go, so it's always nice. I was worried about that game at Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
So everyone said, oh, you know, they've got a European final 3 days after. I thought, no, you don't need to be getting something from there. So, pleased.
Yeah. It's such an interesting season for Arsenal. They start off, everybody's got high hopes. They hope that they're going to be able to build on some close finishes in the past. And they had this reputation, I think probably undeserved because they never really had it in their hands before now. But they had this reputation of maybe bottling it at the difficult moments. Having lost to Manchester City and with City having it in their hands, does this feel like something that Arsenal have overcome, an extra hurdle that they've managed to come back from?
Yeah, they have, haven't they? I mean, there's been some painful moments to watch at times. I mean, I was at the Bournemouth game, actually, just watching, not working, the Bournemouth game at the Emirates when Arsenal was so poor. And at that stage, you thought, oh, no, they're going to mess it up again, you know. But, I mean, the Burnley game as well the other night, God, you're thinking... I mean, there's bound to be nerves after so many years. We had it, I mean, going back to '89, our last 2 home games, we lost to Derby at home, we drew with Wimbledon, last game of the season at home, and we've waved to the fans saying, oh, thanks, but we couldn't quite get over the line. Then we went up to Liverpool. But you're going to have nervy moments when you haven't won it for that long, and they have had them. But, you know, hopefully now, moving forward, they can play with freedom, add to the squad. Champions League final coming up, who knows now? That feels a bit easier now, doesn't it? Not easier against PSG.
It's been a more relaxed competition for Arsenal this season, strangely, because for many players it is the absolute pinnacle. But the pressure has been off in that.
Yeah, they've had some really good performances, haven't they? Bayern Munich, Atletico Madrid, you know, really scored goals, opened up. And so that's going to be mouth-watering. But
it's a free hit, isn't it?
It's a free hit. But to do this, you know, this season, yeah.
Did you believe that they could do it when they lost to Man City at the Etihad?
I always thought it would be close because it wasn't about performance, Michael, was it, at City? And they came out and they gave it a good shot. But they've got this great ability to keep a clean sheet and nick a goal. Bit of the old 1-0 to the Arsenal coming back. But, yeah, he's a fine coach. Sometimes you want him to just be a bit more expansive, but it's a means to an end, you know, it's done the trick.
On Arteta, there were maybe not questions being asked of him, but there certainly would have been if they hadn't got over the line this season. But he's been adamant, and the word from the club has been that he's been building. Each season has been an improvement on the one before, and this was coming at some stage. Did you feel that? Did you feel that confidence, and did you see that progress under Arteta?
Yeah, I did. It was just whether they could hold the nerve when City are breathing down their necks, you know, and whether they would, you know, crumble and not perform. So they have been getting better. You know, they added to the squad last summer. Gyökeres has scored his goals. He probably hasn't convinced fully as an Arsenal centre-forward, but he's notched some important ones. We've spoken about the depth of squad all season, you know, and they have had injuries. They've been able to fill in for those injuries, and that squad strength, I think, has really helped them and maybe got them over the line.
Obviously, they're going to want to celebrate this Premier League title. They've got the game coming up at the weekend. They'll be able to celebrate at Crystal Palace. I'm sure they'll have the opportunity to celebrate with their own fans as well. But as you said, there is potentially another piece of silverware for Arsenal. They could be winning the Champions League come the end of the season. If they do that, this would be an extraordinarily successful season. Ian Wright was saying that he feels that this could be one of the greatest Arsenal sides if they manage to win both those trophies.
Oh, yeah. I mean, on performance and, you know, trophies alone, Arsenal have never done it. never won the European Cup / Champions League. So to win the league and that double would be unprecedented. It was interesting watching Monday Night Football and Patrick Vieira and Jamie talking about which players would go into the Invincibles. And there are a few that would go in, one or two defenders, the keeper. Obviously, Henry and Bergkamp aren't going to get replaced. But they're not as... never won the European Cup / Champions League. So to win the league and that double would be unprecedented. It was interesting watching Monday Night Football and Patrick Vieira and Jamie talking about which players would go into the Invincibles. And there are a few that would go in, one or two defenders, the keeper. Obviously, Henry and Bergkamp aren't going to get replaced. But they're not as good as that team, I don't think, as a whole. But certainly in terms of being able to keep those clean sheets, they're in a great position now going forward. They really are. And you'd love to see them add some more quality in the forward positions. I think that's where they need to do it. They've got great cover in defence, maybe another midfielder, but they should have the money to do it as well. So all eyes on Arsenal now.
Yeah, and like you say, they don't need to be the greatest Arsenal team ever. They just need to be the best team in the Premier League over the course of 38 games, and that is why they're champions. Alan, thank you very much for coming on to talk. John,
Okay, they looked flat. They did okay in the first half in terms of keeping the ball and all that sort of thing, but on transition, they just wasn't there. Congratulations to Arsenal. But for City, by their standards, you just expect a little bit more. We talked about the psychological battle with Man City. They've got players in that dressing room who can deal with it. And then when it was in their hands, they just couldn't get it over the line.
Of course, we're going to talk much more about Arsenal and their title-winning season. But just to reflect on the game that we've seen here and the performance from Manchester City, especially coming in the wake of Pep Guardiola, the strong reports last night that he will be leaving at the end of the season. They've won 2 trophies this season, but they didn't take this all the way. Will that feel... Will that give it an extra sting?
It will do. In terms of their season as a whole, of course, winning FA Cup and League Cup, you look at the whole thing, actually, it's a good season, especially where they were and they got themselves back into the title race, and then to fall away like they have. Everton is always a tough game. And Bournemouth, we know it's going to be tough for them tonight, but we expected a little bit more, especially with the players that they have in this squad. But for them to just go out and feel a little bit deflated like the way they have, and then the Pep news. You asked before, was that going to give the players a lift or not? It didn't look like the players had a lift today, and it's just been a really sad day for anyone connected with Man City Football Club. Pep's got a year left on his contract. You're thinking, can they take it to the last game of the season? And then you hear the news and you think, is it correct? Isn't it correct? And the fact that Man City have not come out and denied it, it's just a horrible day.
It's difficult, wasn't it? I totally agree with you there, Mike. I mean, it was never going to be easy because all you wanted to do was just keep Arsenal honest on the last day of the season, because you never know what could happen the last day. We've seen it so often in the Premier League history. But they weren't able to do it. And Mike is right. The weekend, the FA Cup on a Saturday and then a Tuesday, it just took up the steam out of them. I think a couple of things. Kovacic's playing midfield didn't quite work today. But I also want to give credit to Bournemouth. I thought they were magnificent today. They were magnificent.
Great result for Bournemouth. Important result for Bournemouth. They're deflating a difficult day for Manchester City. Arsenal fans, do you want to see the table? They are in gold. They have the letter C next to their name, and that 1-0 victory for Arsenal against Burnley, coupled with Manchester City dropping points here at the Vitality against Bournemouth, means that Arsenal, with a 4-point gap over their nearest rivals, are Premier League champions after 22 years. This is their 4th Premier League title, and Mikel Arteta has been building something. We've heard this throughout his time at Arsenal. There haven't been the trophies since that opening part season to back that up. But this season, not only are they Premier League champions, they have a Champions League final still to come. There is another game taking place this evening. It's a big game at the bottom of the table, but it's also relevant in terms of European qualification because Chelsea are leading Spurs by 1-0. It means that Chelsea are in 8th place as things stand, and it means that Tottenham have just got that narrow advantage over West Ham, and there will be all to play for on the final day of the season. Tonight, though, yes, Bournemouth have qualified for Europe, and yes, Manchester City have ended Pep Guardiola's time, we believe, with that draw to make sure they are not Premier League champions. But Arsenal, are. And this is how they announced it on social media. The Arsenal